I said to my friend the other day, I said, you know, on this age, we can get into debates around fitness. Look, I'd rather have 80 years behind me than those 88 federal criminal counts in front of me. And so I feel very good about Joe Biden.
My message is, Gavin Newsom, I am going to expose you for the complete fraud that you are, the liar that you are, and you will never, ever be the president of this country.
Gavin Newsom, the star of the latest political drama, has turned California politics from reality TV into a full-blown soap opera. But here's the twist. This isn't coming from protesters or pundits. A California sheriff has stepped in, speaking out with remarkable transparency. Imagine a law enforcement officer pointing directly at the governor's missteps, trading his badge for a megaphone. After hearing what he revealed, you might start to wonder if Sacramento secretly runs on popcorn and plot twists.
Are completely caused by California government. And that's the only reason why California is no longer the greatest state in the country. We have the greatest businesses, greatest people, greatest business mind, the greatest innovators, the greatest creators, the greatest entrepreneurs in the country. My wife and I were fortunate enough to go to Europe last year. We paid for a sommelier to come in and make sure that we learned everything about Italian wine and all of that stuff. The first introductions, where are you from? California. And he laughed. And he said, you guys have...
The level of involvement is surprising. When a sheriff, normally busy with patrols, fugitives, and running county jails, enters the political fray against Gavin Newsom, you know, California has officially entered the twilight zone. Meanwhile, the governor's PR team is scrambling, reaching for Advil instead of press releases and polite handshakes, thanks to this explosive dose of truth.
I'm so proud to be governor of California. Fourth largest economy on planet Earth. Fourth largest economy in the world, $4.1 trillion. You know why? It's because of immigrants. It's because people from all around the world want to come and live their lives out loud here in California, the most diverse state in the world's most diverse democracy. 27% of this state is foreign born. And you talk about a state of mind for people that are foreign born that come here for new beginnings, the entrepreneur.
It's not every day you see a sheriff openly mocking the well-dressed governor of what many call the nation's most chaotic paradise, especially by adopting the persona of a cowboy turned commentator. But that's exactly what happened. Enough, declared a police officer who had watched California unravel faster than a cheap sweater from a gas station clearance rack.
And we're just looking at each other like, how would someone across the world know that we have a lunatic for a governor? I was concerned with my career, my life, my family, my own home, and making sure that I was... The chief of police from the largest police agency in the country said that they are being overwhelmed. Governor Newsom needs to put his phone down, go sit in his house behind the comfort of his TV screen and a couch, and be quiet, because he is doing nothing but fueling...
To put it mildly, the 405 freeway has done serious damage to the progressive utopia's PR image. Take a moment to picture California, an uncanceled reality show featuring beaches, celebrities' organic kale smoothies, and a guilt-free, gluten-free lifestyle. Sounds perfect, right? Yet the reality is starkly different. Crime is on the rise, tents are sprouting under overpasses like tiny suburbs, and it's hard to tell whether sheriffs are there to enforce the law or coordinate makeshift relief efforts.
He needs to stay out of the way of law enforcement. He knows nothing about this. He has enabled this lawless act that is going on right now. This has been years in the making that he has encouraged. So quite frankly, I don't care what he says. He says everything in a disingenuous manner for his own personal political gain, and we are suffering the consequences.
He seems completely unaware that he's walking straight into the path of the police. The current state of lawlessness? That's on him. He's played a major role in it for years. Honestly, his words carry little weight. They're often crafted to serve his political agenda. Meanwhile, the consequences are being felt by everyone else. Amid all this chaos, Gavin Newsom strolls around with hair so flawless it looks like it was styled by a professional using unicorn hairspray and angel tears. Newsom is a master of optics and rhetoric, presenting California as if heaven is just an avocado toast away. On the national stage, he smiles nervously, painting Sacramento as the West Coast equivalent of paradise, but the sheriff isn't buying it. Here's where the sheriff's startling revelation comes in. This wasn't your typical "we have concerns" critique. It was more like ripping off a bandage to expose a festering wound. According to the sheriff, California's government has been engaging in serious deception, Crime statistics are manipulated like a Hollywood makeover. Homelessness is downplayed as a minor inconvenience akin to running out of oat milk rather than the severe crisis it truly is. Drug use portrayed as merely a lifestyle choice.
We've been lied to from the very beginning. The politicians, California politicians, the mayor of Los Angeles, our governor, have completely failed in that nothing was happening in the beginning. It was allowed to spiral out of control, and then they have created this narrative that completely defies facts and a timeline that we know.
From the very beginning, Californians have been misled. Legislators, the governor, and the mayor of Los Angeles all failed miserably, letting chaos take hold before offering any meaningful solutions. When they finally acted, they painted a picture that hardly matched reality. That's not California, the sheriff essentially said, pointing to the polished image Newsom tries to project. It looked more like a movie set than real life. The most remarkable part? Californians weren't shocked. They were amused. Overnight, social media turned into a meme factory. The sheriff became a hero, some comparing him to Sheriff Woody, while others clutched their soy lattes, dismissing him as just another old school cowboy. Yet the sheer openness with which one uniformed officer exposed the truth took everyone by surprise. Sheriffs aren't usually outspoken, and TikTok isn't typically their platform. Essentially, the sheriff highlighted the stark contrast between Sacramento's polished legal narrative and the reality on the ground. Shoplifting has become almost a pastime, with patrons at some stores filling carts like contestants on game shows, then leaving without ever hitting the checkout. Homelessness is everywhere, with city blocks resembling spontaneous camping festivals. Sheriffs are responding to overdoses like it's a second job, while fentanyl has become the most feared visitor in homes across the state.
They keep calling it a peaceful protest, mostly peaceful, whatever they want to call it. But the reality is that law enforcement officers are being attacked, property is being destroyed, and it is out of control violence that really they're trying to deny.
Meanwhile, Newsom stands at podiums waving and smiling, acting as if California is a national model. It's like hosting a dinner party where the host brags endlessly about the wine while the guests are fighting and the kitchen is on fire. Naturally, this didn't sit well with the sheriff. He voiced what many Californians had been thinking after witnessing the chaos. This is not leadership, it's statewide gaslighting. The most remarkable part, this wasn't your typical small town sheriff. Armed with platform, influence, and clout beyond his county, he captured attention across the state. The public response was immense. In rural California, people essentially staged parades in support. Finally, someone called out the emperor for parading around as if everything were perfect, even with that sharp suit and tie with checks. Of course, his boldness sparked outrage in places where progressive ideals are treated like sacred texts. Questions arose. Is it even legal for a sheriff to criticize the governor? Doesn't he realize his job is supposed to be nodding, smiling, and apprehending criminals without drawing attention to the political circus surrounding him?
It's boot on our backs, keeping us down with over-regulation, activism, appeasement of activists, instead of taking care of the majority of Californians as a whole. And it's an agenda. It is a complete agenda of making sure that government is in control of all of our lives instead of us being in control of government. And so the only reason I'm doing this is to restore that.
Unsurprisingly, social media devoured the story like a feast. Memes appeared depicting Newsom as a magician summoning criminals, while sheriffs were celebrated as rising influencers. Some tweeted, "Forget Instagram models, I'm following a sheriff now." And chaos, hilarity, and irony collided online. The story only heats up from here. California isn't the only state in the spotlight. Like a teenager polishing a sports car he doesn't own, Newsom has been carefully crafting his national image. He's positioning himself as a potential presidential contender, a man whose sharp suits and even sharper jawline could supposedly save America in a flash. Meanwhile, the rest of the nation watches as Californians debate whether their state is paradise or pandemonium. The glossy ads featuring palm trees and sunsets are nowhere to be seen for them. Authorities are stepping in, warning the public, don't be fooled by the hype. In politics, perception is everything. The real question is who represents reality? The local sheriff pointing to overcrowded jails, rising crime, and a public safety system stretched to its limits, or the governor with a hair gel budget rivaling a small country claiming California is thriving. One exposes the problems, the other spins denial into an illusion of progress.
This is supposed to be that government is supposed to be working for us. We are not supposed to be working to increase the size of government. And that's the only reason why California is no longer the greatest state in the country. You can have our politicians say it as much as they want, but we are the laughingstock of the rest of the country. We are the laughingstock of the world.
For Newsom, this is the most alarming part, sheriff's talk. If one begins speaking out, others might follow. They share stories, spread the word, and suddenly the narrative shifts. If more law enforcement officers reveal what's really happening behind California's glossy postcards, it won't just be a single sheriff confronting the governor. It could turn into a chorus declaring the end of the so-called Emperor's Parade. The mic drop moment didn't just shake Sacramento, it rippled across the state, signaling a new season in California politics. Newsom was no longer the camera-ready, stylish governor grinning at ribbon cuttings. Instead, he became the man caught enjoying the party while the kitchen burned and the guests fought, smiling as if everything were normal. Given how rarely sheriffs go rogue, the spectacle was both surprising and entertaining. That cowboy hat and badge combo instantly dismantled Newsom's meticulously curated image. The public's reaction was even better. Imagine waking up in a state where you dodge street encampments, check whether your car's catalytic converter is still intact, and hear yet another story of brazen shoplifting, as if you were auditioning for a real-life game show.
Just last week, the San Diego Board of County Supervisors passed an internal policy that prohibits the Sheriff's Department from cooperating with federal immigration authorities like ICE. This comes off the heels of Governor Gavin Newsom calling for an emergency session to safeguard California's laws and values before the Trump administration takes office in January. One of the key issues at the forefront of the conversation is California's sanctuary status for undocumented immigrants. But not everyone is on board with these actions. San Diego Sheriff Kelly Martinez came out in opposition to the policy and said that she would not comply. Even though Martinez is not a conservative, she is responsible for maintaining public safety and for abiding.
You've been living in this circus for years. You're not crazy, a sheriff declared as he suddenly took the stage. But it was more than a simple reassurance. It was catharsis. If there had been confetti, it might have rained down. Meanwhile, the governor's supporters looked like kids realizing Santa Claus wasn't real, scrambling to make sense of it all. Some might say the sheriff is going overboard, becoming more politically active than anyone expected. He doesn't speak for all of California, but that's precisely the point. For many residents, this is the real California, the everyday chaos that the sheriff and his team face. His revelations weren't exaggerations. They were the stark reality. Life on the front lines. Arrests happen in a flash, backup calls pile up, and half the force is already tied up responding to overdoses, break-ins, and residents living in storm drains. These are not abstract policy debates, they are frontline crises. And that's what makes the story so gripping. The sheriff's truth bomb exposed the harsh, unfiltered reality, and from here, it only gets juicier. He goes on to say, everyone wants to visit the United States, just like everyone used to want to visit California, highlighting the consequences for the nation as a whole. California is no longer a desirable destination. Visits are mostly limited to Disneyland, and that's it. It's embarrassing. Despite no longer being the top state in the nation, we're still the same people, yet the rapid decline orchestrated by our administration is undeniable. I'll admit my own share of responsibility. Since I wasn't shouting from the rooftops to stop this decline, I have to own part of it, but the situation needs to be addressed. Take a look at what's happening. Newsom's ambition for larger stages has never been subtle. His hair gel budget is not just for Sacramento photo ops.
Talking about it, and he's like, everyone wants to go to the United States, and it used to be everyone wants to go to California. Here, no one wants to go to California anymore. They'll go to California for Disneyland. That's it. And it's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing that we are no longer the greatest state in the country, and we're still all the same people. We're still all the same businesses. It's our government that has completely changed and brought us to this laughingstock position. And I'm going to take it back. I take some blame for it because I wasn't standing on the rooftops yelling to everyone that we had to stop this, look what's going on.
As America's self-styled progressive champion, he spent years rehearsing his lines, yet that carefully cultivated image crumbles when your own sheriffs start exposing the damage hidden beneath the polished floors. And in politics, looks aren't everything. Trust matters. The public has a certain perception of sheriffs. They aren't career politicians or media influencers. They are authorities on the ground with the boots and firsthand knowledge that Newsom's staged optics can't hide. People pay attention when a sheriff calls out the governor. Let's not pretend that this lone sheriff has dealt Newsom a career-ending blow. There are still plenty of followers, resources, and cameras ready to capture the governor, grinning as if he's promoting toothpaste. But the sheriff has cracked the door open, and once that door is ajar, it becomes risky. Others start peeking through. Why shouldn't other sheriffs speak up if one can? Perhaps they will if they're willing to face the backlash.
I was concerned with my career, my life, my family, my own home, and making sure that I was secure. I kind of just wasn't paying attention to what government was doing, and now it's affecting everyone. So I will make sure that what I came to California for, my California dream, I will make sure that every kid growing up now has that dream, and even the kids that now are from 20 to 35, that it's impossible for them to make their California dream. I'll make sure that I make up for it, and we return the ability to look at that Gold Coast as the beacon for the rest of the...
Suddenly, it's no longer a single dissenting voice. If more sheriffs begin sharing their observations, a pattern emerges, and with it, the potential for real accountability. Critics of Newsom didn't have to go far. All they needed was to show the sheriff the reality of his world. And that reality was already laughably absurd. Homelessness is rising, police are stretched thin, crime is increasing, and drug use is spreading rapidly. Meanwhile, Sacramento insists that California is thriving. This kind of gaslighting makes one wonder if the governor's staff dons reality-warping spectacles every morning. In politics, substance matters just as much as spectacle. Opponents don't need a knockout blow. They simply keep highlighting the problems until the facade collapses. And the sheriff did it brilliantly. He wasn't just criticizing policy, he told a story, a narrative that mirrored the lives Californians were actually living. People naturally trust a story that feels authentic far more than a glossy, scripted version from officials.